Yo, 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 what's poppin', everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Key to the Streets. I told y'all I'm going to get into the weeds of literally the day to day things, like exactly what goes on during our week. And this week we had a couple closings, but I'm going to go over a cool deal that we got done. Um, so today I'm going to go over a wholesale deal. This is just a regular cash transaction, no creative finance or anything like that. We got a property under contract, and then we ended up selling that contract to another investor, and we got paid at close. So that closed this week. So let me pull up the whiteboard really quick. All right. So I'm going to show y'all like real addresses and all that. So we have 24 Marion Street. This is in Brockton, Massachusetts. Okay. So, funny thing about this deal is we had this deal under contract back in February. So, let's call it January. Let's call it, I don't know the exact date, but I can remember we got a lead that came in. So, Zai, I believe, Zai on our team. She's a cold caller and texter. She calls our seller. Okay. She has a conversation. She says, "Hey, are you interested in selling your property?" Are you interested in selling? Okay. This guy says, "Yes, I would sell my property." So this is, let's call this 130. Let's call it actually for a date. I don't know this exact date, but I can kind of put a pulse on it. I think it was probably like the 10th of the year. The 10th of the month in the beginning of the year. So this is January 10th, 2022. Okay. Once this happens, this goes to our lead manager. So he said yes. Our seller, his name is Mike. Mike says, "Yes, I would sell my property. I have something going on." So our lead manager, at the time, it was Karen, gets on the phone with him. And essentially, he wasn't too hot yet at the moment in Karen's eyes. So it ended up in Karen's follow up. Karen followed up. I think there was a couple things that he needed. He needed to talk to a tenant or something like that. He needed to figure out exactly how much he needed for the property. So Karen wasn't ready to push it up to acquisitions. But Karen followed up for maybe 1 or 2 weeks. Okay. Then Karen says, "Hey, I have all the information I need to push it up to acquisitions." So from here, it went to an acquisition manager. At this point, this was what is it now? This is like almost 10 months ago, right? So that was me. I was the acquisition manager. So Karen pushed it up to me and said, "Hey, Mike, I have a hot lead for you. Here you go." I hop on the phone with Mike, our seller, and I essentially get all the information of what's going on. He says, "Man, I have these bad tenants. It's been terrible dealing with these tenants. These tenants think that they own the property. They've been trashing the place. They haven't been paying me in like 2 years. It's just a bad situation. I'm actually evicting them at the moment." I'm like, "Okay, great. What if we buy the house with the tenants in place and we take care of the eviction?" He's like, "Yeah, hell yeah, I would do that." So we buy it. Well, we didn't buy it, but we go under a purchase and sale agreement. This was at $205,000. Okay. We're going to buy it and essentially evict the tenant, or we were going to assign it and have our buyer do that, which that's what we did. So, what did we do once we had this purchase and sale agreement? We ran down to our attorney's office and we opened escrow. Okay. So, we submitted our earnest money and we opened escrow. Okay. In this process, too, this is like a 1 or 2 day process, right? So, very quickly, we had a buyer in place. This buyer was going to buy this contract from us for $10,000. So essentially, the buyer was going to buy it, this house, for him at $215,000. That was the plan. But what happens when you open escrow? Okay. The attorneys do something called run title, which means they go look at the property's history, what's owed on the property, who the property has been passed down to, if it was passed down correctly, all the things. They look at, they pull back the curtains for the property's history and see if there's anything that would prevent us from moving forward. So the attorneys run title. We already had a buyer in place before the attorneys ran title because it happened really quick. Buyer was like, yes, this is a deal for me. Let's go. I was like, okay, cool. You'll take care of the tenants. I couldn't really find many buyers that would. Boom, let's just assign it for 10K. So they run title. They run title and figure out that it's clouded. What does this mean? This means that there was a title issue. So essentially, those bad tenants that we were talking about ended up bringing the seller to court and clouded the title. They had essentially a pending, it was like a litigation. It was a litigation. It wasn't just an eviction. There was like, it was deeper than that. They thought that they owned the property because of something called pretty much a rent to own agreement that they weren't performing on, and they were caught up in litigation. So this clouded the title and we weren't able to close. Nobody could close on the property unless that title issue was fixed. So in our agreement at the time, we didn't have the best agreement. We essentially didn't have the right to hang on while this title issue was going on. What we do now in our agreements is we state that if there's a title issue, we have the right to hang on to it, right? Like we still have equitable interest until this title issue is resolved. At the time, we just didn't have a good contract. Now we have that contract. So what happened? Our seller, Mike, says, no, dude, I'm good. I'm going to take care of this myself. I'm going to go through the eviction myself. He goes through the eviction. So let's fast forward. What is it now? October 20th. We got under agreement probably in the beginning of September. So fast forward, let's say 6 to 7 months. Mike ends up clearing the title. He evicts the tenants. He goes through with this eviction. Okay. In that 6 to 7 months, what was happening? We were having, and this was a couple different people because we switched lead managers a couple different times, but all of our lead managers were following up throughout this whole entire 6 or 7 month process. Like, hey, how's the eviction going? How's the eviction going? How's the eviction going? Finally, when 6 or 7 months was up, Mike said, hey, yeah, I'm ready to sell my property. Okay. The tenant, good news, the tenants are getting evicted. We're ready to move forward beginning of September. So then it goes back up to an acquisition manager. The acquisition manager says, okay, great. What do you need for the property? At that point, he said that he had another couple buyers that were looking to buy the property as well. So I actually go on the on-site appointment, right? I go on the on-site appointment and there were like 3 other buyers there. I saw them there. These 3 buyers probably weren't buyers. They were probably wholesalers. Okay. That was submitting offers. What did I sell? I told Mike, I said, we're already under agreement with this thing. Our attorneys are already ready to rock and roll on it. They still have the paperwork. So, I mean, why don't we just do this? Why don't you get some offers from these guys? Because I know that you want to do that anyway. And we'll pay $5,000 more than any one of these offers, as long as you prove to us that these guys are valid. They're actually buying properties, and you can show us the offer. So he ended up showing us the offer. Highest offer was $240. We came in at $245. Went under purchase and sale agreement at $245. And then we found a buyer. We found another buyer. It was not the same buyer as up here. This buyer was willing to pay $270 for the property. Okay. So look at that. We made $25,000 for following up for 6 to 7 months. It's actually $15,000 more than we would have got initially, which I'm okay with. We didn't have to deal with any tenants. We didn't have to deal with anything. We just followed up. Literally, we just kept them in our CRM, followed up, and boom, we made $25,000 close on the property this week. So if you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to shoot me. Where is it? Right here. Feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram at the Mike Gomes about this deal. Pretty cool deal. But if this brought you any value or my channel is bringing you any value, please like the channel or subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. Do all the things. I appreciate y'all. Peace.